are broadcasting. Yay, we're live. Okay, so coming to you via our live stream for a quick foot reading presentation, a really interesting case for everybody here today. Very excited to present it. So without further ado, let me share my screen and we will get to it. Full screen and screen share. For me to read, but there was an interesting twist. So great experience as far as foot reading goes. A lot of very important information for everybody here. I know the picture isn't the best quality here, but we're able to see stuff already that's very, very prominent stuff that we've talked about in other videos, but also some new stuff as well. And especially when we get into kind of this special twist of what I later found out. It'll add a whole nother dimension to the foot reading, as well as we're using this new format. So let me know if you like this new format and we'll talk about it in the comment section below. Okay, so here's our foot reading. Here's a blown up picture of our foot. So let's talk about the elephant in the room. This little guy right here, this is a birthmark right over the stomach reflex. So we've seen these before in the foot reading videos. Any kind of birthmark, any kind of black dot on the foot is kind of like what I'll tell my students, the circuitry has fried here. It's kind of like it's been overloaded. Some people, these develop at birth and they never go away. Sometimes they go away, sometimes they just pop up. I know some clients have come in and they're like, oh yeah, that just popped up last year. So this birthmark, very interesting if we were to look at the timeline as well as far as when this was here, represents stomach dysfunction, because this is this person's left foot, left side of the body. If you haven't seen that How to Map the Feet presentation, go back and look at that through our online school. It's free. But again, left side is stomach, horizontal zone 3 between the ball of the foot above what would be that proximal head of the fifth metatarsal. Our waistline guideline puts this right in the center of the stomach, representing digestive issues. So that's our first marker. Some of you have probably already picked up on this other marker. We can see some really intense cracking here. Cracking is an air marker, meaning that the area has been over-circulated, kind of like it's gotten winded would be a good way to say it. This is in the lower digestive reflexes, specifically the ascending colon on the right and the descending colon on the left. Again, back to that concept of anatomy, ascending colon is on the right side of the body, so the reflex is on the right foot. Descending colon on the left side of the body, therefore reflex on the left foot. Making sense? So we see some lower digestive weakness, some lower digestive kind of irritation, cracking, fatigue, and I bet you that's because of that first marker, that dysfunctional stomach or temperamental stomach reflex. So it would go a little bit something like this. He puts some food in his mouth, chews it up all nice, hits the stomach. Stomach is a little bit finicky and immediately starts to tax the lower digestive system as it passes that kind of partially digestive food down the system, either with too much acid or too little acid, which really makes the lower GI work harder than it is supposed to, creating fatigue in that system, which may result in like irritable bowel symptoms, specifically a little bit of kind of spasmodic bloating sensation in the lower GI, as well as some acid reflux, belching, and gas in the upper GI. Okay, so that's always fun. Let's talk about this bump on the outside of the foot. So we've addressed this in other videos. That's a little bit more prominent in other feet, but I thought I'd throw this out here as well because it is so close to the cracking on that lateral side of horizontal zone 4. That prominent bump outside, whenever we see that, it's an indicator of potential knee issues. So this is what's known as the proximal head of the fifth metatarsal, basically the fifth metatarsal that runs in line with the fifth digit, kind of in the what would be the distal arch of the foot. That proximal head or proximal kind of part of that bone is the proximal head of the fifth metatarsal, and it represents the direct knee reflex. So when we see it a little bit, what we would call more of an earth marker, kind of more pronounced as far as the bone goes, more jutting out of the side of the foot, kind of saying, hey, look at me. that's what the knees are doing as well. They tend to be a little bit more prone to things like stiffness, rigidity, heaviness. They just make themselves known on a more consistent basis, which if we think of that horizontal zone 4 weakness, not just as lower digestive, but also core muscle weakness, we can really see how that might also play into what would be the direct knee reflex. Okay, so lots of fun stuff that we're already picking up on. In addition to, but kind of not excluding, the fact that he has this nice, very present ball of the foot in vertical zone 1, horizontal zone 2. The ball of the foot is really wide here, so very strong chest, very wide breadth of emotion, but also that little bit of redness can sometimes get him in trouble. We'll talk about that with our special twist because it's also very significant. Also, the toes are really nicely balanced. Like the big toe is also really wide, indicating a lot of mental strength, a lot of good organizational structure in the head and chest. It's just when we get below that diaphragm guideline, when we get into the upper lower digestive and somewhat low body, we can really see somewhat of a breakdown in the reflexes. But these are all tendencies. So if he's having a good day, everything will be fine. But if he's having a bad day, the body is giving us a clear-cut map as far as this is the order in which I will break down promptly if I am not taken care of. Okay, so just to recap, first we have our blemish, not necessarily blemish, but birthmark in the stomach reflex, followed by some fatigue in the lower GI reflexes, also weakness in the lower core. Then we have our marker for a prominent knee issue or issue in the knees if stress continues to increase, and some emotional fluctuation. So those are the things that I'm really seeing in the feet. But there's a twist. Bum, bum, bum. There's foot pain involved. So this was actually the second part of our conversation. This individual sent me his feet because he had foot pain, but he didn't tell me he had foot pain. And obviously as a foot reader, I can't see pain, but the person who I'm reading for can feel pain. So I always ask them if foot pain is present to show me where it is, because if they point to it, it says a lot about what their body is going through internally, not necessarily on the surface, but really on the deep levels of their nervous system, which isn't always present from the physical body. So foot pain area number 1, kind of smack dab in the ball of the foot. Foot pain area number 2 is a little bit lower. So let's go over what these two things mean. So foot pain number 1 said that it started last week. It was on the right foot, dull ache with stepping. So as this person was trying to take a step forward, the ache was triggered. And it's in horizontal zone 2 or the ball of the foot, as well as in vertical zone 2 underneath that second toe or in line with that second toe, giving us what I would call a pure 2-2 issue. Which basically means it's all going to be in the chest and it's all going to be emotional. But let's talk about that. So the physical meaning of this marker would be a right shoulder ache due to pec strain. How did I come up with that? So the dull ache, if you wanted to think of a dull ache in the chest, easiest explanation is you pull the muscle. Because it's being influenced by vertical zone 2, influenced by the chest space, hurt in the chest space, basically it's a local strain, and that's something to kind of file away. Also a little bit of intuition there. I'm just thinking that there's a pulled muscle in the chest. Internal meaning though is much more significant because this is on the right foot. It represents the past, and a 2-2 issue is 100% in the heart space. So it very much represents that dull ache in the emotional body that's lingering and hurts when attempting to move forward. Let me say that one more time. Just like this person reported a dull ache with stepping or taking that next step, we can then metaphorically translate that into past emotional hurt that's lingering and hurts when attempting to move forward or literally take that next step. Fascinating ways that you can work with your client's words in terms of interpreting foot meaning. Okay, but let's look at foot pain number 2. So again, same specs. Started last week, it's on the right foot, dull ache with stepping. But the pain is in horizontal zone 3. We're below the diaphragm guideline, still in vertical zone 2, but this gives a whole nother meaning to what's occurring. So the physical meaning would be an ache in the liver. And how do we do that? So horizontal zone 3 is upper digestive space. Stomach is on the left, but liver is on the right. And so an ache in this center of the foot represents a little bit of liver unhappiness, but it's being influenced by that upper body strain. So this could be a really deep trigger point manifestation, or it could be the liver is really upset because of improper lymphatic portal movement. There are many, many ways to think about this, but basically the upper body is influencing the liver area, that upper quadrant of the core on the right side, to really start to feel pressured and achy. The internal meaning is that this past emotional hurt that's affecting this person, it's affecting his work, and it hurts when attempting to move forward again. But horizontal zone 3 is the internal section of the foot that represents career and work and action activities. So when we think of the right foot as past, anything in line with the second toe represents that influence of the emotional self, and it's affecting his work, that horizontal zone 3. That's where it's influencing. So the pain is in the career center, but it's being influenced by the emotions. I'm thinking that there's some serious heartache. An action was made in the past that is really stirring up some pretty heavy emotions. Based on these two orientations of foot pain, I really think that some more meditation, maybe a little bit of breathing exercises, and definitely physically stretching the upper body would be very appropriate right now. As a side note, this person contacted me and said that they were worried because this is technically heart reflex territory, as their friends promptly pointed out to this individual. And I responded by saying, technically, but not really. So this is, especially with this area of foot pain and the second part of the foot pain, when we look at the actual first part of foot pain, yes, it's more center of the chest, but that second part of the foot pain is well into the upper digestive area and does not represent heart issues. Also, the heart reflex, just as it appears in the body, is more on the left side. So not really in danger of, you're going to die from a heart attack anytime soon, especially with this just popping up in the last week or so. Normally when my clients come in with heart problems, they're displaying really strong bunion tendencies. They've had things like Morton's neuromas off and on, for years. It's not something that just comes on overnight and doesn't present with other symptoms. So I don't think heart issues are in this person's future. But again, we're just focused on what we're seeing in the present moment. It just doesn't match up with the timeline. So that is it. That is our foot reading. I hope that everybody really enjoyed that. Let me kind of flip around to talk to you directly. Perfect. So that was our foot reading experience. I hope that you guys got value from that. I thought that that was a really interesting case study, how I read the foot, but then there was also that aspect of foot pain that I wasn't aware of, really brought a whole nother level to the reading. And that's really the importance of dialogue with clients. So if you want to send in your foot photos to me to be featured on a video like this, or just to chat back and forth via email, feel free to do that at sam@footwhisperer.com. That is the best way to reach me. And you can subscribe to our channel as well, which I'll put a little subscribe button, bing, bing, right there. And my email address will be below in the description. So check that. Also, if you wanted to check out another video, you can totally do that. I would love to talk with you more, but I'll end this broadcast. Keep sending in your comments, questions, and I look forward to talking with you soon. Bye.